everyone, and welcome back to Marketing by Shelby. I'm so excited because I have Mary Bell here with us. We did a video with her last year, I believe, after her first book came out. She has since released another book. So we are going to chat about marketing strategy today, thinking outside of the box, marketing outside of social media, which we primarily talk about on this channel as social media. So I'm excited to hear Mary's perspective and how she has gotten books sold elsewhere as well. Mary, welcome to the channel. I'll pass it over to you to tell us a little bit more about yourself so far.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me again. I am an indie author of contemporary romance, and I have sold over 3,000 books with less than 3,000 social media followers. So obviously you are the social media marketing guru, and that's how I found you, and love all of your content and try my best to stick to all of your tips and tricks. But as a lot of us have learned, you could stick to every tip and trick, and as long as you're growing, slowly here and there, that's like how you build your genuine audience. But sometimes you don't grow as fast as you want to, regardless of all the tips and tricks that you put into play in your marketing strategy. So, I have basically attacked my author career as a business and a brand. So I've done a lot of things outside of the box of just, here's my book or books, please go buy them. And I'm really excited to share some of that insight as far as how I've gained more exposure, I found new readers, and sold more books by taking my social media marketing strategy, which is very important, obviously, but adding a whole nother layer to basically dig your heels into your local community and do a lot of networking and collaboration in order to sell more books.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I absolutely love your approach to branding. I think a lot of authors hear that word and they don't really want to be like the face of a brand. They don't really want to have a brand, or maybe just don't understand what that means. But I love that you have taken that approach to branding, and I think you've really nailed it. So can you talk a little bit about how you kind of developed your brand or learned about branding and kind of came up with those different pieces that you have on social media and in your merch and all of that?
Yeah, I basically have taken everything that I like about myself that makes it the easiest to talk about and in order to relate to other readers, and turn that into my quote business. So a lot of times people talk about, who is your ideal reader? And I don't write books just for, people who are like me, but, I'm essentially writing romance and writing it in a way that is like, if you were hanging out with me, and I think you know this of me, if you were hanging out with me, that's essentially what my books sound like. Because for me personally, I write very much what I know. This may not relate to, say, if you're writing a thriller, right? Like, you're not out there doing, whatever illegal activities, and that's who you're trying to relate to. But that person, that author, is relating to people who love to escape into that stuff in their free time. So I say this about myself all the time. I'm a romance writer, but I love watching television like Game of Thrones and Sons of Anarchy. So when I approach my business, my brand, in order to sell more books, I have really taken, who am I and who am I trying to reach and speak to? And that comes out in all of my content. And I've gotten really comfortable doing that over the course of the last year. And, everybody does different stuff, and you could get really lost in the trends and, the trending audios, and you have to go do this where, you get splashed with water and then go do that. And that is why I really love your tips and strategies. Like, it doesn't have to be, this is what's trending now, go do this. It has to be more of, stay true to who you are and who your ideal reader is. And every piece of content that you put out should relate to that reader. And it just makes your whole marketing strategy that much easier from social media marketing. And then as you start to develop these other ideas in order to get more involved locally, it just helps.
Yeah, totally. I agree. Strategy and authenticity over trends always. And trends can be effective, but a lot of the times they don't really feel like us, especially the more introverted of us, or people that don't really want to like dance and sing on camera. So,
right. And I'm an extroverted person, but
yeah.
I don't like doing that. I feel like,
Right.
And one of my very close local author friends, she's a lip syncer on TikTok. And if you meet her in real life, she's very quiet, but she's very comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
And she hit a big TikTok and she got like 8 million page reads. And so we all hope that that's going to happen, whatever it is that we're posting. But in the interim, while we're waiting or hoping for that to happen, like, you can't really just wait stagnantly and, hope it's going to happen. So that's what I've said. Hey, listen, like nothing that I've done has really gone so viral. And actually a couple things did go like semi-viral, but it didn't really yield the sales that you think it's going to yield. It yielded a few new followers, and then you keep building upon that. But basically I said to myself, I want to really leverage what I have around me while I'm doing all the social media marketing, just to see what it can like drum up together.
And doing that with social media and connecting with others, collaborating with others, getting into your community is such a powerful combination. So let's switch gears and talk about that and how you've gotten involved in local community with bookstores, Barnes & Noble, indie bookstores, maybe gift shops. Can you talk a little bit about your strategy and your approach with that?
Yeah, so I very much relied on you and your course for a lot of social media marketing tips. And my editor actually started off as how I learned how to write and publish a book. Elizabeth Lyons has Write the Damn Book already, and she has Publish a Profitable Book course. So that was the thing that I used. Here's all the things that you have to, do to, launch a book. What's an ISBN number? All the basics, right? So what I learned there was, do all of these basic things, but also you have to think about getting your books into bookstores or libraries. Like nobody's going to do that for you. And quite honestly, I found that getting my books into stores and shops is the slowest form of marketing. And that could just be because I'm an indie author and, there are independent bookstores, but those independent bookstores are really trying to stock books that are very popular because they want people to come in. They may highlight your books as a local author, or they may house them there for people to buy to see how they do. But I have come across local indie bookstores that are like, no, I don't have enough room on my shelf for you because nobody knows who you are yet. That's where I am or was in my journey. But my message to everybody is I'm a spreadsheet gal. Create a spreadsheet and do like a 5-mile radius. Find all the bookstores and local gift shops that are around you and write them all down, take a templated message and personalize it. Like, hey, Kathleen of Crossroads Gift Shop. That's, the gift shop right down the road from me. It doesn't just have to be a bookstore. It can be a gift shop where they do sell books, and especially they highlight local authors. Introduce yourself. This would be the perfect book for this type of buyer. Here's a little bit about me. I'm a work from home mom. She's a mom herself. So you connect in certain ways that other people can relate to you with. And then you get your books in that way as well. And you just, you keep that spreadsheet. Like I have 3 different stores that I'm currently in around here, and I have 12 different rejections. But the amount of books that I've sold in both of those stores, or the events that I've had in those stores and the readers that I've met, is well worth, I'm just in 3 stores. No, I probably met at least 20 to 30 new readers throughout all of those stores, if not more, that I don't know of. Those are who I know. And then, of course, everybody, when I posted about Barnes & Noble, they're like, how'd you get into Barnes & Noble? And I just asked them. Like, I follow them on social media, and that's where you take that social media marketing strategy and you genuinely and, just authentically reach out to people. I am a new author and I love my books, and I think your customers are going to love it too. And I learned this from you, and also it's just inherently in me. Like I'm a genuine person. I'm not going to just ask you, hey, can I get on your YouTube channel, without supporting you on the back end as well, because I believe in what you're teaching everybody and I would love to be a part of it, but I help you and you help me as well. So when you're reaching out to bookstores or gift shops, like their content, share their content. And then once you have a little bit of an established relationship, hey, I would love to see if I can do a book signing or an event with you. And that is how you just get your foot in the door. That it all goes back to that genuine relationship building.
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah. And kind of pairing that with social media, I always will try to tag the store if they're carrying my book, or I even just go to visit and it has nothing to do with my books. I'll tag that I visited them and try to build that relationship. And I think that can be really effective as well. I don't think I've ever said this, but whenever my first book came out, I emailed over 400 bookstores, like manually, one by one. I really wanted to be in stores. So
and what kind of response did you get?
I think I got maybe into like 15, which at the time I was thrilled with. And I didn't really do it in the authentic way you were saying of actually having a connection first. A lot of them were just totally like cold outreach. So I definitely would have been more successful knowing what I know now if I were to do that again. But what you were saying just reminded me of that like hustle of my first book. And I still do that now, but in a different way. I didn't email 400 people or 400 different stores.
Right. And I think
Usually.
that there are certain things that you have to do and that I've learned throughout your author journey when you are new. And like, I've been doing this for now a little over a year, which is not very long, but it's also, I'm not new, but it's still that we're like, yeah, we're still hustling and we're still trying to get our name out there. And hopefully in the next 2 years or whatever, I have more people who know about me, and Mary Bell is more of a name within contemporary romance and women's fiction. And then your methods are going to change a bit. But right now, if you're really just saying to yourself, hey, I just want to know, and I say this to everybody, I just want people to know that I exist. And then they can determine what they do with what books I write or what reviews they're seeing. But I just need people to know that I'm here first.
Yeah, I love that approach. And I've even been saying recently that I need to go back to that approach, that like fresh faced, like whenever I was a debut author, kind of all of that like effort that you put in just to get seen and to make people aware of you. And you kind of get comfortable over the years of like, okay, people, like enough people know me. That's not true. Like you always want to be growing. So I've been just reflecting back on my first book launch and the things that I tried, even if they failed, and kind of going back to that and thinking about on my fourth book launch, like how can I weave some of that in? So,
and it's funny that you say that, because you know how they show you like either on TikTok or whatever on this day, and it's your memories from a year ago or whatever. I'm like, wow, I did a lot different types of marketing back then, but that was also before I even had my book in my hand.
Right.
So I was like trying to promote my book as I was writing and as it was getting edited, and I had nothing to hold, right? But I remember the stuff that I used to weave together in like a canvas slide or whatever. And it was like, I'm like impressed by myself. I'm like, wow, I did really good with not having a physical book to use. And I even said to myself the other day, I'm like, I have to go back and do some of those methods. So that's another good tip too. And you say this all the time, what everybody wants to know is, oh, well, how do you determine what works or what doesn't? You have to analyze every single thing that you did, what you got from it. And that does go back to spreadsheets. You know, we're writers, so a lot of us, I hate numbers. I don't like speaking numbers.
Yeah.
But if you are organized, you can go back and say, all right, well, and for me, especially like with events, let me go back and see how many events I participated in. Did I have to pay anything to be part of the event? How many books did I sell? How much time did it take? How much merchandise, apparel did I sell? And was it worth it? Because I've done over 15 events and I can tell you very specifically which ones worked.
Yeah, very important to know your numbers and to analyze. It doesn't have to be your whole world, but definitely taking some time to look back, or else you're going to keep doing things that aren't working and possibly miss the things that would really work for you.
Right. We're all struggling for time. And, you know, you want to just spend your time on things that are worth it.
Totally. So you mentioned some events that you've done, some signing, some different events with maybe like local businesses. Let's switch gears to that and talk about how you got into those events. How do you find events, or do you kind of pitch the idea for the event yourself?
Yeah, sure. So it all goes back to that ideal reader again. So again, I'm contemporary romance and women's fiction. And just for people who are not writing that type of book, you know, if you're an empty nester, you know, empty nesters, their kids left, and you're kind of just sitting there looking at your husband and you're like, oh my God, what do I do now? So like, use your community forums on Facebook, right? And some people are like, oh, you know, the 20-year-olds are not on Facebook. You'd be surprised, you know, and again, depending on who your ideal reader is, you could find these things in different areas, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, of course, or LinkedIn, just to do a little bit of research. You know, where is your ideal reader hanging out? What type of activities do they like? And then follow that. So my very first event, which was very successful, was a clothing boutique by me, Hudson Square Boutique. And again, genuinely, I've been in Hudson Square Boutique before. I love their clothes. I love their store, and I've shopped there before, right? So if you know a store that's by you and you're like, that would be a great place for a possible meet and greet or book signing event, make sure that you've been there before. You know, like go in and shop and buy something and support them. You know, you could go get a $13 pair of sunglasses to be supportive. Like, you don't have to spend all your money there, but then go home and tag them in something so they see that you're sharing, you know, their content. And hey, I got this from Hudson Square Boutique. So I've done that naturally, not because of book stuff, but just because it's been a store that I've shopped in. And then one day I was like, hey, listen, I would really love to do an event, because I saw that they did a lot of pop-ups, like when the store closes at night. and they would host permanent jewelry, like girls' night outs, a bunch of stuff like that. I said, it might be really cool to do a meet and greet with a local romance author, a night out, girls' night out together, and we could promote it together. They're great with their marketing. I'm pretty great with my marketing. So that's a perfect example of I supported them. I reached out and said, hey, I really think this would work for like your regular shopper who happens to be my ideal reader. I'm happy to come. And then you basically, does it cost anything for you to be there? Will they take a percentage? There's a lot of different things to consider when you're going to be hosting an event with somebody, which is a whole like another slew of information. But that's how I start. And then it ended up being one of my best-selling events, again, because it was very much the place where my ideal reader is hanging out, as opposed to the place that I grew up in, New Jersey, is like the really cute, like apple and pumpkin picking farmlands and stuff. So they have big, sort of like a festival on the weekends before and in between Halloween. So I said to myself, oh my goodness, like this is like where I grew up. Like so many people will be there and it'll be great. It was not great. It was too big. Too many people corralling their kids because it's a weekend and it's farms and there's rides and there's cotton candy and there's ice cream. So no parent who my ideal reader is probably somewhere between 30 and 40, possibly a parent, possibly not. They're like corralling their kids. They don't have time to stop in my booth about a romance novel, So I sat there and it was a long day. I sat there for like 6 hours and I think I sold maybe 3 books and like a t-shirt. And that was just because it was somebody that I went to high school with that came. I don't even think I met anybody new that day. And I don't know that unless I try. So I think that's really a big consideration too. When is the time of day that your ideal reader would be more prone to going out? Are they going to be spending time with their friends? Are they going to have free time to be able to talk to you about their book? Or are they going to have their kids with them, where anybody with kids knows like you don't really have time to get 3 words out, let alone hear about a book, So it's a lot of trial and error. But again, it goes back to the spreadsheet. List a bunch of restaurants, stores, things that you see people doing during the week as far as events within your community forums on Facebook. Get involved with those businesses, reach out to them, and plan from there.
Yeah, very good insights for sure. So before we wrap up, you launched your second book somewhat recently now.
In April.
April, yeah, very recently. So any big changes you made marketing book 1 versus book 2, especially since it is book 2 of a series, right? Or a 2-book series. So you kind of have to sometimes market your first book to get people to then want to read book 2. So is there anything different that you did with the launch of the second book that you want to continue for, future books, or anything you did differently that worked really well for you?
What was really interesting to me is like I did get caught up for a little bit between seeing all the stuff that really flies on TikTok and Instagram and gets tons of views, which is like, to be fair, the very smutty stuff, like a lot of people are into dark romance. You've read my books, like there's a decent amount of, steamy scenes in it, but it's not too much that's like, just aggressively worded or anything. I call it tasteful steamy. There's a plenty of scenes in there, but it's nothing that's like just too over the top. Yeah. And what I found was when I was trying to be like, before I really understood how this all works, I'm like, okay, well, they're talking about their steamiest lines in their book. And let me, go sort of reenact that on my side. So I found my steamiest line between Gennaro and me. And basically you're attracting the people who really want the smut. And then I would get feedback like, oh God, that was really not very, spicy. And spicy is very subjective. So then I had to, like really calculate like, okay, well, again, all back to your ideal reader, what kind of book does she want to read, And she's not really necessarily reading super smutty. Like I really like my tasteful steamy scenes, but even my next series is actually going to be more women's fiction than this contemporary romance. But I really reinvented the wheel for myself, saying you don't have to do what everybody's doing just because it may get hundreds of thousands of, likes and shares on TikTok, because that's not really who I'm going for or what I'm going for. So it all goes back to staying genuine and true. And what I really have done as far as marketing was focus more on, and you taught me this as well, it's not so much about here's my book and I want to sell you my book. It's here I am as a person and who I am as an author. Because if people get to know me and they trust me and they enjoy hearing from and seeing me, they're going to trust me enough to eventually try out my books and read my books. And like I said earlier, I write the way that I speak. So if you see me in my story and I don't have my makeup on and I'm just being as real as possible with my 4-year-old's there and I'm trying to get all this work done, and you're like, oh my God, this is the most relatable thing I've seen all day. And then you're reading my books, which are, especially the women's fiction series coming up, it's going to be very relatable to you. So I leaned more into really celebrating who I am, my journey, and really just believing in myself and my books as much as possible so that people just genuinely and naturally see that when I post anything. And that has gotten me a lot further, both with finding new readers, selling more books, and then also when I'm, getting in touch with these businesses, entrepreneurs, social media influencers, they really do see I'm a genuine, authentic person, and then they're more prone to support me.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's so many great lessons in there and what you just said about being relatable, appealing to your target audience. I think, and there's nothing wrong with it, like want to go viral, want to have that experience. But if it doesn't have anything to do with your target audience or your product, it's very unlikely that is going to move the needle in a positive way for you.
Yeah.
So like you said, with a video about spice, when that's not really representative of your books, that makes perfect sense. And so going the way that maybe I won't go as viral with this, but I'm going to be building and nurturing my audience and relating to them and building a community that way is way more effective in the long run for your author brand, for your future books. So I think that's really important for everyone to take away from this.
Yeah. And it's been, I think, the thing I'm most proud of too, because the more that I'm doing it, I find too, a lot of people just, and I recently actually shared with me 40 in November. So it's like a countdown to 40. Which, what does that have to do with being an author and writing books? Again, my ideal reader is generally the same age as me. We're all facing the same issues. Our marriage, children, chasing career dreams, like how do we do all of this stuff? It's that meme and the Instagram reels that you see all the time. Yeah, I'm going to text all my friends back, go grocery shopping, clean my house, get my work done, pay attention to my marriage, do all of these things with the barely any time that we have. And we're all in the same boat. So when I'm sharing those personal journeys as well, as long as I'm infusing how that basically works with my author journey and how it affects my book writing, you're connecting dots. So it's not like, hey, here's what I'm eating today. It's more like if I'm making, pizza and pasta with my family, that's Italian American culture. I love that about my life and my family. And if you've read my books, that's exactly what my books are about, So be comfortable sharing who you are and your journey, so long as you connect the dot on how it relates back to your books.
Perfect. Couldn't say it better myself. So thank you so much for chatting with us today. I wanted to just end on what's new with you, what you have going on. I know you're working on a course for authors, so I'll let you tell us about that.
Yeah, sure. So a lot of these tips and tricks that I have found over the course of the last year, I've basically just put into a course called Book Promotion for the Extroverted Author, or in parentheses, the one who wants to be, because I do understand not everybody is super extroverted, or some people are listening to this like, oh my God, thinking about doing a girls' night out at a store and meeting new people, like it gives me the chills and the shivers. But to be fair, even when we're writing and right before we're about to publish our book, like that gave us the shivers too, right? But you push through that and you see what's possible on the other side. So a lot of things that come naturally to me, because I do have an event planning and a marketing background, and I do have lots of family and friends, and I'm just involved a lot with different things. I basically compiled it into a course that gives you a lot more ideas, methods of communication, execution, follow-up, and how to basically leverage your local network in order to collaborate with businesses, entrepreneurs, influencers, even get your books in the hands of some celebrities. It's a whole course on that, and I'm going to be offering it at an introductory rate. This course is available now, and I just think it's a really wonderful way for people to think, like you said, outside of solely using social media marketing in order to sell books and grow themselves as an author, brand, and business, and really looking at what's in their own backyard as far as increasing your exposure, finding new readers, and of course, selling more books.
Perfect. Awesome. I'll have that linked in the description if anyone wants to check out Mary's new course. I'm sure it's awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story with us. So many great tips that we covered today. And I also just want to give a shout out to anyone who's listening who has unique marketing experience, wants to share how you've promoted your books or your products, any creatives, I would love to hear from you and have you on the channel as well, because I featured Mary a couple times and I'd love to get some other people on here to chat with. So please do send me an email or comment if you're interested in doing that. Anything else, Mary, before we wrap up today's?
No, you know what? I'm going to end the same way that I ended the last video that we did together, as a big, huge thank you for all you do for me and other authors and how you do it. Because like I said earlier, in a world that it's trending and you have to do it now and you have to rush and do this, and like, we're already stressed enough. You are just so even keeled and level headed with your approach, and you really teach us to do that. So thank you for that, and thank you for having me again, because it really means a lot to me. And like we keep saying, indie authors, we just want people to know we exist, and people like you help that out.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And thanks so much for bringing your energy and all your tips for us today. I'll leave everyone on your other video, so you can click over here to watch Mary's other video that we did last year, where we dove into branding and merch and all of the things for like pre-orders. It was really info packed. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.